Hello, everyone. We are live. Yay. This is our first live show for our Grisha Readalong, where we're going to be talking about Shadow and Bone. So real quickly, we'll just go around and introduce ourselves and say what we gave the book.
Okay.
What rating we gave the book?
Yes, sorry. That was specific.
I gave this book a lot of tabs.
I gave this book my tears. No. Hi, my name is Catherine Zofrey. I gave the book 4 stars.
Hi, my name is Katie. On this reread of Shadow and Bone, I gave the book 4 stars.
Do I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So hi, I'm Nicole, and I also reread the book, and I gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars.
Ooh, specific.
I gave it 4.378.
Yeah, I'm not that specific. I'm going with potatoes. This is my first time reading it, and I gave it 4 stars. But I've kind of been bouncing back and forth between 3.5 and 4. So I'm gonna say 4 for now. 4.
Interesting. I didn't think I was gonna give it the lowest rating. Hey guys, I'm Mary. You're on my channel. I gave it a 5, so it's not really that much lower. But I'm surprised we had so many 4 stars. What did everyone in the chat rate the book? Let us know.
Also, I'm curious to know if you're rereading or if this is your first time reading the series.
Yeah.
I am too.
I
gave it a high. Continue.
Oh, I was just saying this is my first time reading the book.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my second time, and I gave it the same rating.
Yeah, I think my ratings stayed the same, but I gave it a 4 star because I just think it's so fun. Like, it's just a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm simple.
No, same. I was like, I enjoyed it. It was fun. 4 stars.
That's how I do things. I'm like, did I enjoy it? 4 stars. Did I hate it? 2 stars.
Nothing technical.
Would you say that it was like a good time, Claire?
Claire, was it a good time? Did you have a fun time?
Internet. Not Em in the chat rating it nothing.
I don't think she finished it.
No, she didn't read it.
She didn't. She made that clear.
Here.
A lot of people.
Oh, sorry. I'm not even paying attention to the chat. My bad. Hi, Em. I'm glad you're here, even though you didn't read the book. Hi, Zoe. Hi, Taylor. Hello, Stacy, Eliza. 3.5. Okay, perfect. 3.5, the correct choice. But I gave it 4 stars for the first time read. A fun time.
Stop. I don't want this. I didn't come here for this.
This is going to be a fun time.
So far, I'd say 3 stars. I'm not completely finished, and I'm a bit lost right now. Okay, that's fair. Rated it 3 stars. First time reading it, and it was a 4 star. First time, I don't like to rate books, but I liked it so much more than I thought. I found the world really enjoyable. It was a typical fantasy in my opinion, but the world, the Darkling, wink, wink, the Grisha, the Darkling, and basically the Darkling.
I agree.
Barf.
Yeah, I think that if the Darkling was not in this book, it would have been like a 1 to 2 star for me. But the Darkling really made it fun. Like, it was just a lot better because I was envisioning Raylo the entire time. I was just like having so much fun.
I mean, there really wouldn't be a book if it wasn't for the Darkling.
Exactly.
There really wouldn't.
No.
I appreciate him as who he is, what role he serves in the book, but like he's not my.
I think we should also think about how like he actually plays such an important role in the whole verse. So I'm excited for everyone else that hasn't read it yet to understand like the true meaning of the Darkling. I feel like that's why I love him so much, and also he's hot. So
It's really important to the world, but the main important part is that he's hot.
Reading this with the knowledge that Ben Barnes is going to be the Darkling really changed everything, though. I was like, okay.
Period. Mm-hmm.
That's all I could see. Once Catherine told me that the Darkling was like,
He's
Kylo
totally
Ren.
Ben Solo.
Yeah. 3 stars. I think the world building and plot could have been done better, but I agree that the Darkling was a redeeming factor. Yes. In the chat, let us know if you're for the Darkling or if you're against the Darkling. I think that will be a really interesting piece of discussion.
And if you're a Darkling anti, just know that I support you.
And if you're anti-Darkling but still think he's like real hot, I support you.
However, I will not take any Darkling slander, so if you have any of that, no, we're not going to vibe. Just kidding. You can have your own. But does anyone have any non-spoiler thoughts they want to share before we launch into some more detailed questions?
I mean,
It's a good time.
Non-spoilery thought is that like it does kind of show that it was written in like 2012. Like you read it and you're like, this is a very typical 2012 YA.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
If I had read this in 2012 when I was in middle school, it would have changed my life. Like hands down. It lines up with all the books I loved back then. So if I had read it then.
And I think it actually surprises me how back then I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense because I feel like it's something that you would love as much as Twilight in my case. So I don't understand.
It feels like it would go hand in hand with the Hunger Games. Like if you were a Hunger Games kid, I feel like this would be like the next thing you would read. And like it never was in my circle, which is weird.
Yeah. I think, Mare, was it you who said that the main character, Alina, reminded you of Selena from Throne of Glass?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, if I had read this around the same time I read Throne of Glass when it came out, it would have been game over. Like, I would have been like, too many obsessions.
Yeah, it did remind me a lot of her. I found her less annoying than Selena, but there's a lot of times I was like, okay, Alina, like, chill out.
She has a little bit of YA protagonist disease.
Yeah.
You know?
Turns for her. I'm hoping that we'll see growth in the series, though.
I agree. I agree.
I'm totally here for the Darkling, if that wasn't obvious. I also believe he can only be played by the legend Ben Barnes.
Ben Barnes.
Ben Barnes.
I'm pro Darkling as a character neutral as far as romance. I think that's.
I agree with that.
I actually agree with that. But like instead of neutral as far as romance, I'm anti-romance. Pro Darkling villain, anti-romance.
I could see that.
There's no book without the Darkling, but I'm still Team Mel.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I'm living in the moment.
Yeah. What's happening?
Something fell.
Oh no. Hi, Nat. I'm definitely for the Darkling as a character, not in a romantic aspect, though.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm manifesting I'll be in love with the Darkling.
I know
You and every other girl. You and everyone else.
Em is definitely gonna love the Darkling. Yeah. I'm already.
I'm trying to remember the Raylo stan. I don't know if she ever actually watched the Star Wars. Em, did you watch the new Star Wars? That's the question.
Yeah,
that
but
is really the
fan. So like.
Bye, Zoe. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. We'll definitely talk more about that.
Thanks for hanging out.
Okay, thank you, Nat. I feel
it's that 2012 like YA female protagonist.
I have a meme for you. Honk. Honk.
With all of the memes on the Discord, can I just?
There was
good.
Really good one in there yesterday.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
They made me crack up. Jen, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, any more non-spoiler thoughts, or do we just want to jump right in?
Let's jump in. Let's do it. I think we're ready.
It's not this book.
M, go.
Back.
Definitely.
You're in timeout.
Figure out.
All right. Well, spoilers now. Talking about the plot and the writing style. The writing style is something I definitely want to touch on because, ew. What did you think of the writing in this book?
She grows so much throughout her career. Oh my gosh, Leigh Bardugo. And I think as I was writing in our Google Doc, as I was thinking about how it's just because I think it's in first person. Like, I think that's the main pitfall of it. Because every other book that I've read that she's written has been in the third person, and it's like switched between characters. And it fits her storytelling so much better than first person did.
I can totally agree with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the thing that the first person serves is like Alina being an unreliable narrator. Like,
Yeah.
she.
I love Leigh Bardugo. Please don't mishear me. She's my goth aunt. I love her.
Definitely.
That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like it serves like her being an unreliable narrator and not being super knowledgeable of the world. And I think that like kind of helps us learn more about the world with her because she is like very limited in like what she knows about everything. So I think the first person definitely helps that, but I agree the first person is like
Yeah. I think my problem is that I always wanted more with the writing. Like, I never felt like I fully understood what was going on in Alina's head. And I just never felt like there was really good description of the world. There were some like really random sentences that were super flowery. And then she would just jump into like a really like bland sentence, which I thought was really, really odd. So I don't know. It just felt like there was the bare minimum, and it just made the book read really fast, but it also just kind of let me feel it. It kind of made it feel lackluster, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I can agree with that.
Anyone else have thoughts on the writing, Nicole?
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with it, but I also wasn't like the writing. Like, it just felt very simple. I don't know. I feel like this book was just, it felt like a quick read. Like, I could have like skimmed the pages and taken in just as much as like sitting there and fully like trying to process it all. It was just really easy to read. And yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. But also I wouldn't take it away me like the writing in this book. Like, it didn't really impact me.
Gotcha.
I think for me, I feel like I enjoy first person more than third person, and it's kind of weird because most of the time fantasy is written in third person. But in my opinion, I just feel like first person, like I think it was Claire, the one that said, or Mare, I can't remember. Like, you're growing with the character, like learning. I can't remember who said it.
I said
but like
kind
of like the protagonist learning about the magic system, and then you're kind of like learning as well. I like that. But I do feel, since I read King of Scars last month, comparing those two, like the writing style, I can definitely see like the difference. Leigh Bardugo in this book was just like all over the place. Like, she was just trying to put the whole world and magic system together that I don't think she was able to portray it through the pages, I guess, in a way. I feel like it was just too, here's this information and that's it. Just memorize it. And I guess this is the second time that I'm reading it, so I understand more of the world because I already read the other books. But I feel like if this was the first time that I was reading it, because thinking back to when I first read it, I was so confused. I couldn't remember what a matriarchy was and all of that. Like, it was just like, what? And I had to go back to the first page where it tells you like what they are. And I was just so confused. And I feel like this time around, I kind of understand a little bit more. But if this is the first time you're reading it, like, I do understand why it can be a little confusing.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk any more about like the world building, or in particular the magic system? I thought that was an interesting point to talk about because I kind of felt like it was a little bit info dumpy, even though like we were learning about the story like from Alina's eyes. I still feel like Leigh Bardugo was just like, this is what this is, and this is what this is. And like, I don't typically love that kind of method of storytelling. I would rather it be like, this situation happens and then you get the context of it. But I feel like it was very much just here's a word, here's the definition, let's move on. And I just kind of got frustrated with that after a while.
And I even on a reread, I still feel confused with like the lower breakdowns of the orders of the Grisha. Like I get the big umbrella terms, but when she starts going into like the specific of the materiality or whatever, I can't pronounce it, I'm like having to check back which one controls what. And I find that really annoying personally.
Yeah.
And I always feel like we don't learn enough about like what Ebony is saying with like all the other forms of Grisha. Like we only know a little bit about the summoners from this book. We barely learn about the heartrenders and the everyone else.
Yeah, I feel like there were words that came up a lot, like heartrender, where I was like, what do you do? Who are you? And that's something I'm wondering as a first-time reader, if like just from reading the rest of the series, I'll kind of just pick up on that a bit more over time, or if because it's the first book, there wasn't as much information in a way to like not info dump, because I almost felt like it wasn't too info dumpy. I felt like I almost didn't have enough, and I kept waiting for a dump of information so I could pick up on what was happening and who everyone was and what they did.
That's actually how I always feel when I read this series. I'm like, I feel like I know a lot, like it dumped a lot of information, but not the information I needed to understand.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Where if this was my first, like when it was my first time reading it, I definitely struggled with what the different Grisha orders, and I again still don't really know the difference of the materiality guy, whatever they're called, whatever the fabricators are.
Why are the words so hard to pronounce?
Hi, yeah, like I feel like I have a solid understanding, especially like the summoners. The summoners are the easiest to understand because it's like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like straight up, that's what those are. And I have like a pretty good understanding of the whatever, the heartrenders and those healers. But definitely it took a while to understand what each of those were. Yeah.
Fair. Anyone else want to talk about? Oh, hi.
I always hated. Sorry.
No,
I always hated that there are in the Grisha there are some people called like healers and tide makers, but there's also like durists and like weird words. Like why do some have easy names that like instantly bring a picture and others have weird names? Like I always hated that. That's lame, but
yeah. I will say with the magic system, something I do really like is how it's like they're like, it's not magic, it's the small sciences. And I think that's really cool because it sets a really cool set of limitations where they can't just pull something out of nothing. They have to be able to reach for the different elements and things in the air. And if it's like lacking, then they have a harder time pulling those certain things and using their powers.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna jump off of Catherine's point that it's like a really unique system that like I haven't really seen before. I just feel like I don't know enough about it. But also like reading the first book, I was kind of like, okay, we'll probably get more world building later. So I'm trying to kind of just roll with it and figure things out right now as it's happening.
I think you all know I'm an engineer major, chemical, and like this whole book, it is like science. All of my notes are like thermodynamics, chemistry, because all of the laws are not broken. Like I love how the magic system is actually following all of that, and it makes me sound like a nerd, but I love it so much. I love when magic systems are actually proving or have like a reason why it's happening. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're like, I'm such a nerd as we're on a live show talking about a book.
Yeah.
I also love that it's called the small science instead of like being like a magician or something, because it creates a really interesting relationship between like how they're seen in the world. And that's not something that like, and like how they see themselves in the world, like that just relationship between it's not something I see very often when I read books.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees with you, Nicole. Everyone thinks
Yay.
I love hearing you talk about that. I was like, yes, please tell me more.
Please explain this actual science in a fantasy novel. Nicole, that'd be such a good video idea. Break down the science in fantasy novels. Please do it, because I don't have any brain.
I'm doing something like, if you're an engineering major, read these books, because I feel like a lot of people don't really think about it or don't really realize how much like fantasy is based on real science, and I love that. So
see, I don't think about that, so please enlighten me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Actually, she does have one flaw. She simps for the Darkling.
Absolutely not a flaw.
One flaw.
One flaw.
Oh my God. Well, we're almost to the Darkling, so we can talk about that in just a few minutes. I'm scared all war is gonna break out, but
I'm sitting here like.
Does anyone have anything else they want to say about the magic system or the world building? We good? We said our piece. Sorry, I don't know how to transition these things. I'm really trying. Now we can talk more about the setting, because I feel like that's such like a pinnacle point of this book. What did y'all think?
I love this world, just in general. Like, I love the entire Grisha-verse universe. And I like how Shadow and Bone, like, sets up the beginning of a world. It just, like, drops your toe in. But you get such a relationship with Ravka and the little palace and the fold. But you're also, at least for me, I'm always like, I want to see everywhere else. But there's still more books that we do get to explore more places. And that's what I love about this world, personally.
Yeah, I like that at the end of this, you start to get those little hints, like they go more north into Fjorda.
Got you.
Into Fjorda. Me trying to pronounce these names is not it. And then also you see the people from like Shuhan and all that. I think that it's cool that we're starting to get those little hints of the outside world, and also what they think of like the Grisha and Ravka and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, the end of the book made me excited to see more of the world, because I agree, it kind of just drops you in and then you slowly learn more and more. I kind of wish there was more like exploration of the world in the beginning, because you kind of just transition from like one place to another, and the other place like isn't touched again. So I kind of wish we had more of that, but I'm definitely excited to see where they go with it, because I really liked the foresty snow vibes. Like, that was everything.
I love the mountain adventure half of the book, or third of the book. Like, that's my favorite, when they're just freezing to death. I'm so excited to see it on screen, because the aesthetic of everything in the Grishaverse is gonna just look stunning. When we got to the Little Palace for the first time, as I was rereading this, because I tabbed everything that I think is gonna look cool on screen. I put like 3 tabs in that spot, because it's like gonna be chills, and it's gonna be better than like Hogwarts, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it visually. I felt like, I don't know, this is my first time reading a single like Grishaverse book. I haven't read Six of Crows or anything. So like, for this being my first introduction to this universe as a whole, it felt pretty simplistic to me. But also I think a lot of that goes back to me telling myself it's just the first book, and I have a feeling there definitely will be more exploration of the world. And it was kind of nice to have like this contained view of Ravka for now, so I could get a feel for this area, feel like I know it, and hopefully learn more as the world continues to build in the rest of the series.
Cool. Love that. Love hearing your thoughts, because that's so interesting that we have like completely opposite takes. Like, we were contained, and I'm like, give me more. Well, do we want to just jump into, did y'all want to talk about the pacing? I don't think we addressed that. We kind of did, but does anyone have anything else they want to say about it?
It's just really fast paced. It's a easy read. Like I never felt like it was dragging, even when we weren't like getting a lot of action. It's still like it was easy to go from one thing to the next.
Yeah, I liked that. It's been a while since I've read a really like quick paced book, so I liked that I was able to fly through it so quickly.
I think what I liked the most was, I think it was chapter 14, that the Darkling, like they dance and whatnot, and then Alina sees them all again, and then next chapter, like literally it's like, Alina, you have to leave, and it's like, what?
Pacing wise, I love that part.
So fast, and I love that because you never get bored. You're just like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like that was happening too as I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is starting to get predictable. Like I was just starting to feel like I knew exactly where the story was headed, and I was starting to get like a little bored where I was like, I've seen this before, and then they just kind of like flipped it really quickly, which was nice.
Well, and what I love about that is like at chapter 14, she finally feels safe in the little palace, like and comfortable, and everything feels familiar finally. And then immediately chapter 15, it flips it on its head and she no longer feels safe there and she's forced to leave. And I think that that's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I think especially since so much of Alina is about like finding her place, like she's never felt like she belongs anywhere. And then she finally like is being appreciated for like who she is. She's getting attention. People like see her as something special. And so that transition from, first of all, having Mal come in and like kind of throw that back in her face and being like, no, this isn't right. And then you go to chapter 15 and it's like, okay, now she's suddenly uncomfortable and things are different. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And then she has to go with Mal, who is appreciative of her. And now she's feeling appreciated again in a different context. It's beginning.
Yeah.
Alina got Disney princess in the beginning, but then it got dark. Yeah.
Alina's my favorite Disney princess.
Princessy. Like I feel like if I try to think of her as a princess, I'm less like Alina. I'm just like, okay, girl. Yeah.
He will take any and every opportunity.
I'm sorry, he's like a golden retriever, and we all know that's my weakness.
Well, do we want to go ahead and just chat about Alina since we started kind of getting into that?
Let's do it.
What did we think of her character?
What do you think of her character, Mare?
You go first, Mare.
Okay, I didn't hate her, but there were times where she made me visibly sigh and like cringe because I was annoyed with her. So I don't think she's like the worst female protagonist that I've ever read in a YA fantasy, but she's definitely not the best because like, I don't know, she's just kind of like whatever to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I had really mixed feelings. Like at first I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. She definitely had that like I'm quirky and relatable trait, but I don't mind that. So like, I do relate to you. But then as soon as she like let her power loose or whatever, she's like, I'm sleeping better, I'm stronger. I was like, I don't relate to you anymore.
Yeah.
Relatable traits.
A good night's sleep can't relate.
When she was like winded from the stairs, I was like, yeah, me too. I feel that. But also there were times I was just worried about her. Like her need, I get that she was an orphan who never felt like she belonged. So I get that that's kind of like her downfall because she feels this need to belong. But the way she keeps telling herself that she wants to be like owned by someone or like belong to someone really concerns me. Like every time I did that, and it wasn't just with the Darkling. Like she was just like, I just want to belong to someone, and I'm like, hopefully we see growth there because that worked.
Yeah, that's bringing out some thoughts that I had that I forgot. Like in the beginning, so much of her identity is just rooted in Mal. Is it Mal or Mal? Or
I think it's Mal. I don't know. I need to look up how Leigh says it, but I know I said it Mal.
Okay, well, a lot of her identity in the beginning was very rooted in Mal, and then at the end, again, it was rooted in Mal. And when it wasn't, it was the Darkling. And so it's like her identity was never about herself. It was always like she was trying to get the attention of a dude. And I was like, girl, you literally have like the power of the sun. Like you're a baddie. Like let's focus on that instead of these men.
Yeah, that's the 2012 agenda.
Yep.
No, really. I feel like that's why I'm so neutral with it too, because I'm like, you don't need either of them. Just do your thing.
I think she needs to love herself. I feel like despite the book being first person, we don't really get to see much of her personality. It's just like either talking about Ma or the Darkling or like everything else, but we don't really get to know her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's funny on the first read, I didn't like her like at all. I was like bored of her. I was only there because like I was like I have to read this trilogy because I want to. And then but on this time I like really loved her. And I don't know what changed about it, but for some reason I just found her so much more endearing on a reread. Maybe it's because I know where she ends up now.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. On a reread, I liked all the characters a lot more. And yes, I agree. But yeah, I ended up liking all of the characters. Like I liked Alina, I liked Mal, I liked the Darkling just a whole lot more. Maybe because I know where they end up and I know their journey that they go through, but yeah.
So do you build Lego sets, Alina Senko?
I will say, like, I wish that she did become like better friends with Nadia and Marie. Like, I wanted them to get like, I love her relationship with Jenya.
Yeah.
Is it
Correct.
pronounced Jenya? Yeah.
I had to look that up. That one's Jenya.
Yeah. I love her relationship with Jenya. I think their like friendship, whatever you want to call it, is super like cute, and I really appreciate that because Jenya doesn't treat her like she's like something special. She's like, no, you're just another person that I have to make look good. Here we are. But I wish we got to see a bit more of her relationship with like Nadia and Marie because she like spends most of her time ignoring them.
Yeah.
I always love that scene where Jenya and Alina go try on all the dresses, just because I feel like that's such a sweet friend moment that we never really see in a YA fantasy situation. But also it's the first time Alina like starts to feel confident in herself. And I think that's a really cool moment.
Yeah.
Personally. But she does have YA fantasy protagonist disease.
Yeah.
And a little bit of like internalized misogyny from 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that 2012.
There's definitely parts where I'm like, okay, this was written in 2012.
Yeah. I feel like that's why I was forgiving of her characters. I was like, this is a 2012 YA fantasy, and it just read like that. And I was like, I'm not going to go into this and expect something else. Like, I knew that that's what I was reading. But I want to see that growth. I'm hoping for that growth.
2012 was such a fun and quirky time. Oh yeah, I definitely can forgive this book for a lot of its flaws because it is just a product of its time.
But it's also that thing of if I had read it in 2012, I would have been like I would have had like Alina merchandise that I handmade. Like I would have so projected onto her as a 12-year-old person.
Yeah, I definitely wish I had read this when I was younger because the writing style definitely felt on the younger side of YA, and so I was very much struggling to like connect at times. So I agree with you. I loved it if I read it when I was younger.
I feel like Tumblr would have been so amazing if we would have read Shadow and Bone in 2012.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can just picture like the little palace, like reblogging that, and I don't know, I just feel like it would have been so cool.
People making like aesthetic boards of the
my 2012 aesthetic would have been Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Would have projected onto this.
Well, we're playing catch up and we're going to project onto it now. So
I haven't already started projecting onto it.
I've definitely already started projecting onto it. That's fine. More so when we get into Six of Crows, but that's a different story.
Honestly, though, Alina's my favorite character. Like, low-key, she's my favorite character of this because girl power. And her powers are really cool.
Darkling, Katie?
What do I... Barf. That feels like a good segue.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of nervous to talk about the Darkling, so I was thinking we could maybe talk about Jenya first, but if you're ready.
Are we ready for this conversation?
I'm not going to fight in this civil place, only on the Discord.
Okay, let's keep it calm, collected, and cool.
I'm just going to be passive-aggressive, subtly.
So what are our arguments for the Darkling?
I only wrote one note in the Google Docs. I'm anti-Darkling, for those of you just tuning in. I wrote, girls will really dismiss fascism and gaslighting because a YA fantasy boy has dark hair.
I am girl.
Accuracy in that statement.
Yes.
He had motives, he had a personality, but they were not good.
Cool motive, still murder.
Cool motive, still murder.
As like a villain. Like I think he's
As a villain?
Yeah, as like he's a very complex character, and I really like that. I'm not like, boo, Darkling. You know, like I kind of want to hear him out, and I want to hear his side of things. But then I'm also like, oh, am I just as naive as Alina? When I'm like, oh, maybe he has a point, and then I'm like, oh, no, this is bad. This is bad. But
Okay, here's my thing with that, though. We don't know what side's correct.
Well,
No.
I want to see. I want to see where things go because I feel like I don't want to like. Oh no, that's not true. I was gonna say I don't want to judge him too early, but then he like kind of murdered all those innocent people at the end. That one was a bad moment. That was a bad moment. I was willing to give him a chance, and then that popped up, and I was like, oh, yeah,
Gaslighting, fascism, and genocide.
yeah.
I feel like before he did the whole thing to Wes Rodka, I could have like been like, okay, I want to hear him out. I want to see what his plans are. But the second he did that, I was like, no. But I agree. He's like such a fascinating character, and especially like how easily he lies and how like he believes a lot of the lies that he's telling.
That's where I'm like still not sure.
Yeah, he believes he's doing the right thing. He believes like when he's like, okay, make me your villain. Like he believes that
make me your villain got me. I was like, oh, wait, that was the moment. But then he killed people.
Yeah, and then he became the villain.
You're okay? Make me your villain. And then he kills a bunch of people. He's like, I made me the villain.
I mean, yeah. The Darkling is not a character. Like, if I met him in real life, I would be terrified of this man. But, like, a fictional version, yeah, you know? Like, I don't actually find him, like, attractive, but, like, he's just such an interesting character to read about, and I kind of want to root for him because I always think it's so interesting when, like, good and evil are like combating against each other. Like, I don't always want to see good win. I think it's way more interesting to see people who are corrupt like have a chance. So I guess that's why I'm kind of rooting for him.
Yeah, because I mean, like, what's the point if there isn't that thing where you like push all the way to the end? Then if good wins, it just seems too easy.
Yeah.
And like, what was the point of reading all these books if there isn't struggle? And he definitely gives like that push and pull struggle.
This is an interesting comment page.
I had a whole about the differences between them because I feel like if you saw a picture of the two of them, you would think they're the same. And I think maybe we can revisit this when we host Six of Crows. But I feel like their difference is in that I ended up saying this. I feel like they align on the goth spectrum of the alignment between goth, prep, jock, and nerd, but like they're totally different in like different quadrants where they're both like all black angsty boys, but like Kaz Brecker was like a feminist and the Darkling like abuses women.
Yeah, the Darkling gifted Jenya to the king. Like he gifted her.
And he's watching her get abused by the king and does not care. Like that's the difference. And whereas Kaz, I don't want to say this because it's a spoiler for Six of Crows, but
yeah,
he
let's wait
does
talk
help
about this
people.
in Six of Crows. Yeah.
I think too, though, one of the interesting parts about reading from Alina's POV was I felt very confused about the Darkling the way that she did, because like we're reading just from her perspective. So every time she was being manipulated, I feel like I, as the reader, was like right there with her. I was like, oh, maybe I should hear him out. Maybe he has a good point. And then there were times where Alina was like, no, I can't listen to this. And I was like, wait, girl, just hear him out. And then I was like, oh, you're stronger than me, you know?
Yeah. He's on my love to hate list.
Yeah. When Nat said that he's like Hans from Frozen.
Oh yeah, that was a great point.
Yeah, that part, I feel like that was kind of the moment I was like, oh, because up till then I was kind of willing to like see his side and see where it was going, and then he did kill people, so that was rough.
We deserve more
I
Darkling.
feel like
I'm excited to get more.
Yeah. It's a trilogy, y'all.
Rachel's comment about the Darkling cutting the guy in half, like that happened. I think it was in the beginning or like the middle of the book. I think it was the beginning. And since that happened, like, what did you expect? Like, did you expect the Darkling to be nice? Like, no, like you already knew what you were getting into by just like looking at that.
That's always my favorite when people don't know he's the villain, and I'm like, his name is the Darkling. His name is literally the Darkling. That's like not knowing Darth Vader's the villain. His name is Darth Vader. Like,
the whole first half of the book, I was like, why did everyone say I wouldn't like the Darkling? Like, he's just like, he's a prince. It's cute. But then they kind of, the rushed romance is where I started to be like, what's happening here? This doesn't make sense. So I was glad when there was that twist, because if it had gone down the route where it was like a love triangle and she's like the Darkling or Mal, I was bored. So the twist was good, because none of the romance stuff made sense, and him manipulating her, it was just like, okay, that checks out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I want the Darkling to be the main character too.
That'd be interesting.
It'd be so much more interesting.
I think there is a novella, like a prequel novella. That's right.
There is? I need to.
Yeah.
I never read, like, I haven't read Language of Thorns or whatever. Like, I haven't read her other things.
Yeah. Edgy.
If he existed today, he'd definitely have, like, emo curtain bangs and, yeah. He'd wear eyeliner.
Like Kylo Ren.
Again, emo baby.
I'm ready for, like, a name reveal though. Like, I want there to be that moment where Alina finds out his name. I don't know if we're gonna get that, but I want that moment. Like, the name has power. Why is everyone laughing? It's not gonna happen.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah.
You're completely valid. Your thoughts are valid.
My Instagram bio used to have the Darkling's real name back in the day.
Oh my god, Nicole.
I was obsessed.
Can I use that meme that I've been sending in the bonk? I do agree. I hate him as like a person who would be in that world. I would be super like, the Darkling's a bad person, and I do think he's a bad person. But as like a reader, I think he's a compelling villain, and so in that respect, I think he's interesting. But I don't no. I don't like crush on him or anything.
The Darkling. Stop.
I hope his name is Carl or Greg.
Greg. Josh.
His name is Colton, which doesn't match the rest of the book, but because he's a frat boy.
Oh my god, frat boy Darkling.
I wish I could draw, so I could draw frat boy Darkling right now, but I can't draw. So you'll never see it. I don't have any money, Mare.
Everyone Venmo Katie so she can commission frat boy Darkling.
Chad the Darkling, and he wears like a cutoff tank, but it's black.
Yeah,
and a backwards hat.
I kind of like Donald.
Ew, not her. Reaction. White pointing off.
You know, that conversation was more civil than I thought it was going to be about the Darkling. I think we can all understand why people hate him, but he's just so much fun.
I'm honestly really fascinated by his character. Like, yeah. I'm like, Alina, don't, but also I'm like, I want to know more. I just want that full backstory.
Period.
I think the conversation is going to get like more interesting once we finish the trilogy.
Yeah, I believe
That's
that.
where
There's, like, a
the
lot to
division
learn.
really happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do we want to talk about Mal? Because I know that's
Yes.
the big. I had a question and I wanted to talk about it. Katie, you can address this for me because I know you probably have the most thoughts. But like, why do people hate him? Like, I was reading it and I was like, he's fine. Like, I don't love him, but I just don't understand the slander.
After I read the book for the first time, I was like super, because I read the whole trilogy in like a weekend, and I immediately was like, oh my god, I love Mal. I can't wait to go on Tumblr and look at fan art of Mal. And as I was looking through like a tag, it was just slander. And I didn't understand because I was like, oh, he's so nice. But people think he's boring, first of all, and like uninteresting, which I disagree with because I think he has a lot of layers, and as we go through it, unpacks a little bit more. But it's because he's like, you know, he's the good guy. People don't like that. And there's a couple things that happen in the next two books that like would be spoilers, but I didn't know people hated Mal until I went online and I was upset.
I agree.
I actually didn't like Mal that much. I think for me it was the scene. Oh
yeah. I don't know. I never really thought that much about that scene just because Mal is like PETA. And I'm Team PETA.
I didn't feel like he was like a soft boy though. You know, like
no, he's tough.
And then I was like, where's like our soft, really sweet? And Mal, I felt like was a little aggressive at
He's
times.
coming.
Nice.
He's on his way. Our soft boy, he's coming. Book two.
I'm watching you and Katie just go, oh my god.
I felt like Mal was like, I don't know. He was just like aggressive, and I get that they were going through it. I understand, but I was also like, we just dealt a Darkling. Like, I just want someone who's gonna hug her and like be nice. The way he like wouldn't talk to her for days, I was like, y'all have been through some trauma. Unpack this together, please.
yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things I really like about Mal is like how he is like fiercely loyal.
Yeah,
and like when he talks about like how basically his entire squadron, all of his friends died on this mission. So he definitely has some like things he needs to unpack, but also like I'm sure he was like frustrated with Alina, but he still went after her and he still like was like, no, I'm gonna make sure you're okay. Like I really appreciate his loyalty.
Yeah,
I do too. He has a nice guy vibe, and people don't like that. Okay, like that's
I don't think it's
I love
that.
what Rachel said. I love him, but he has nice guy vibes.
I think for
I
me,
don't think he's like a nice. Like I don't think he's
he's
nice
not a nice guy,
from
but
the
he's definitely nicer. You know?
no, he's
Yeah.
just like a guy. He's just whatever.
he's so good, but I didn't get like the complete nice guy vibes, and I think that's what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I think that's the reason why I don't like Mal, and it might be just like personal issues that I have with me, but it's kind of like I just don't like that. Like, I don't really know how the saying goes, but it's like you don't appreciate what you have until
it's
like
gone.
you don't have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I hate that. Like, yeah, you're like telling Alina like, oh, I feel so bad. You left and I couldn't do anything. So I had to go get you and like rescue you, whatever. And now I'm in love with you. I realize that I like love you, whatever. And I'm like, no, why did it take Alina to like burst into sunlight for you to realize that you love her? This and that. I don't know. I don't like that. And also, the first time that I read this book, I have the ebook and I read it in 2018. And that whole page, I just like highlighted it in green, and then I made like a note with the green emoji where it's like about to vomit.
Barf.
That's literally That was literally
That's
what
my
I
favorite
put.
page in the whole book.
It was so crazy.
I felt like, because I honestly thought it was going down a typical YA like love triangle route, and I thought it was going to be the Darkling's like, I like you. And then I knew Mal was going to show up. And I was like, and he's going to like her because she's apparently hot now because now she's sleeping, which is great for her. But like, I was like, oh, he's going to come up, like he's going to show up and be like, I like you. Now you're pretty. Like, let's get together. And I felt like even though there was a twist with the Darkling, with him, it still kind of went that way. And I think he's such a loyal friend. And I think he really loves and cares about her, but I just don't think they necessarily need to be invested romantically. I will say his speech got me, though. His thing about, like, I went up the mountains for you, we belong together.
My heart stopped.
Yeah.
That speech also could have gone as, like, just a friendship thing. Like, he could have been like, we belong together as friends. We grew up together. I would do anything for you. And I would have been just as sold on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually really liked that scene. And this is, I think, how I interpreted the situation as well. He didn't realize he had any feelings until she was gone. And so, like, I didn't see it necessarily as, like, something rooted in jealousy. It's just something that he kind of came to terms with and understood on his own when they were separated. But I can understand, like, both sides of that.
Well, and I can't remember if this is in my book. I have like a special, like, the letter that he wrote her before they went to Fjerda, or I don't know if everyone has that or if that's actually in the book, but that part where he talks about, there's a part where he talks about how he would go to her tent, or he would go to look for her to tell her something funny that just happened, or all these things. And I feel like that's that moment where he finally realized, he's like, wait, I love her, you know? And I know that a lot of people don't like the whole, you don't realize what you have until it's gone. But, like, how many times has it happened in, like, real life? And so, like, that's, like, really real, which I always liked. And I'm already in the unpopular opinion where I think childhood friends to lovers is superior to enemies to lovers, just personally.
I love that.
And so their history building up to where they end up eventually is, like, to the end of this book is stunning to me, especially because throughout the book I tabbed every time Alina thought of how much she missed Mal, and she just, like, loves him so much deep inside her. And whether you want to be like, oh, she loves him as a friend, or she, like, just deeply has a crush on him, she does love him so much. Because there was just moments when she was in the little palace where she's like, I miss Mal so much. I want to tell him about my new friends. I want to tell him about my training and my new powers, because he was the only one ever there for her entire life. And so when he's not there, it's, like, really sad for her. And I love it. I tabbed, like, 25 moments.
Yeah, I will say that letter does change some things also. And I feel like maybe I should take pictures of this and upload it to the Discord, because, like, honestly, there's, like, certain points. Like, I'm just gonna let me just read something real quick.
The letter.
Wait,
The
is it
letter.
gonna be ASMR?
Give it a
do
good
ASMR.
audiobook voice.
Okay, here we are. No, I'm not gonna do ASMR. But so, like, what Katie was saying, he was talking about how he was, like, asking about her at, like, all the different camps, and how he was, like, always looking for her. And he, like, asked one of the captains, and the captain was like, keep your head down and do your job, or Stav, which is his last name apparently. No, that's not quite true. Before he dismissed me, he asked, what is she to you anyway? I didn't know what to say. I keep seeing that blood letter dragging you through the crowd while I just stood there like a fool. What would they have done if I'd run after you, shot me, stopped my heart, let me say some kind of goodbye? I'll never know, because when I finally got my head together, I didn't start shouting and throwing punches. I turned to my superior officer, and while they hauled you away, I tried to explain. I made my case respectfully, reasonably, like a good soldier I am. That can't be the last time I'll see you. When that thought creeps in, when it's late like this and the lamp burns low and the flame starts to sputter, I feel every empty hollow in myself, and the wind just blows through. I feel how flimsy I am, how all the things I thought were strong and whole were just held together by you. What is she to you anyway? Well, here's my answer, Captain. She's the thing that made this all okay. The threadbare coats, the old boots, the guns that jam when you need them most. Yeah, anyway, It's so good.
And he did like the #1 crime in the First Army. He straight up deserted the First Army for her. The second she needed him, he led all the guys away so they wouldn't find her, so he could like try and keep her safe. And it's like that was so powerful, and like they're not perfect in terms of like couples, and that develops more in the next books, but it's just like they have such a fierce love for each other and loyalty to each other that I feel like when people are like, there's people on Tumblr and stuff, and they're always like, they shouldn't have ended up together, period. They shouldn't have had any romance. And like, but they genuinely have so much yearning and love for each other that wouldn't have made sense to have not led to that at all.
Yeah, I feel like just from having only read this first book, I'm looking forward to where it goes, because I do still feel very much like this first book was like a really intense friendship, if that makes sense. Like aside from like a couple of scenes where they kissed, I was like everything else just spoke like loyalty of friends who love each other as friends, like almost, I don't want to say in a sibling way because then it makes it weird, but like they grew up together and like they know each other in a way no one else does. I feel like everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, my heart, but also I don't need it in a romantic way yet. But I feel like there is probably more to come. I'm looking forward to all that.
Yeah,
I also just.
Oh, sorry.
Continue, Mare. You're more important.
Absolutely not. Was the letter like a bonus edition of the book or something?
Yeah, it's like a bonus section.
Yeah, okay. It's in the back of my copy. There's also like an interview with Leigh Bardugo, but like
yeah,
I do not have that.
I saw it on Tumblr, but it didn't move me, so like it didn't make me change my mind.
There is also discussion questions in the back of this.
I love their scene in the prison, like the night before he's supposed to die. Like I just thought that was a really sweet moment between them that shows like what she feels for him in comparison to like the Darkling, and then like it just shows like how much she just genuinely sweetly loves him. And I like that better for me personally.
I think
in my taste.
I think for me, I just don't. I'm with you, Claire. I don't need a romantic relationship for this because, like I said previously, I just think that Alina is so focused on other people and not herself. Yeah. And I'm worried that she's going to let other people like consume her personality and like who she is. And at this point, I really don't see her like in a relationship with anyone because she's just kind of bland and like boring. Like I feel like there's not really anything, not that there's not anything going for her, but I feel like and want outlook so much beyond the fact that they were like childhood friends. Like I need more of a personality to like go off of. I need some more banter. I need some like good discussions. And right now I'm basically just being told, hey, these two people love each other, but I don't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, I love the Darkling, but I don't love the Darkling for Alina.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
fair.
Yeah.
There are people that do, and that freaks me out. There's genuine people that are like, Alina should be with the Darkling, and I'm like, that's terrible. You need to see it there.
I think I mentioned it earlier how I feel like Alina needs to learn how to love herself. Like she's just too focused on the guys.
And I think that's my problem is I can't see a romantic relationship at this point where I'm like, yes, love this, so cute, because I'm like, girl, you just gotta, there needs to be so much growth first. And I think obviously this is the first book and that's what the series is for. I'm hoping we'll get a whole character arc. It's gonna be stunning. But like right now, I'm like, you just need a friend who's gonna be loyal and support you and love you for who you are, but you don't need to have all your focus on that person.
Well, and I feel like that's just 2012 too, where they were like, she can't be confident because she has to have a man. Because I always feel the same way when I read Divergent. Like I always feel like Tris is not confident in herself. She doesn't, like she's so insecure and so I'm not like other girls. And I feel like Alina and Tris are kind of similar in that way. And so that's just the 2012 too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Skylar's ready to fight.
Yeah,
Skylar's ready to fight.
Ooh,
and I disagree. he deserted the first army for her. Even if you don't see that as romantic, that's like A+ friend thing. He committed a high crime to see her again. High crime.
I don't see it. Like I don't.
He trudged into an enemy country for her. Just saying.
Like I don't know. I just don't see Maul. I don't know.
I'm okay with not thinking that he's a good romantic partner, but I draw the line at him being a bad friend. He does so many things to me that like cement him being a good friend that I'm like, I draw the line. Those are fighting words.
I feel like I see both sides. Yes, he did all of that, and like I do think he's a good friend, but also I feel like he made her feel kind of bad about a lot of the good things that he did for her. Like he almost used it as like, it wasn't a you owe me, but it was just like, if you're gonna do something nice, just do something nice, you know? Do it because you love her and you're loyal to her. And it felt like he was trying to make her feel bad at times for all that he'd done. But also, you know, he's probably traumatized, so there's something there.
I don't want to address what Skylar's saying about like he doesn't want Alina to be the hero yet, because that comes in with spoilers for the next couple books. But I do have thoughts on that I've been holding up since I first read the trilogy.
But I do love Maul has cowboy vibe.
He does have a cowboy vibe.
I think that's why I like him.
I invented a trope like when I was reading Raven Boys way back when, and it's called Tender Cowboy, and it fits Mal.
Can you break the trope down, please?
Yeah, it's called Tender Cowboy. And I'll make a big thing about it. It's soft cowboys.
All right. Do we need to talk about Mal anymore? Have we said our piece?
Stepping off of our soapbox.
I'm okay. I'll sit down until the next live show. Because it's gonna keep coming up because the dynamics between all the characters continue to get tense. So
excited. I'm excited for them to like now have to deal with
this is just the beginning. Yeah.
I love the ending. There was just like such a dark little part, and I was like, ooh, we're gonna have to unpack that. I'm excited.
Oh my god, I forgot. I love this is about the writing. Hold on, because I just forgot. I love that the before and the after are in third person, but the rest of the book is in first person. Like that's so cinematic to me. And I can just feel like the camera panning out on them. And I'm like, I love that. Sorry, that's about the writing, but like can't wait to see that on TV.
Yeah, that'll be a cool moment. I loved the beginning scene. I thought it was really interesting. Do we want to talk about Genya or any of the side characters? Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to say that Genya and David are like my actual #1 Grishaverse ship. They're the OTP. They are everything. And if anyone in the chat is a fanfiction writer, there is not enough. So please get on AO3, write some Genya David fanfic because I'm lacking. Hardcore. But I also love Genya. She's like my favorite Grishaverse character ever. I love her. Literally obsessed.
I feel like she turned out to be complicated too. Like at the end, we saw another side from her. And as much as I was like, Genya, no, I was also like, ooh, more complications. It's fun when you get like that other side of the character. But I loved her just being like, I feel like the first half was her being a good friend for Alina's character. And the second half, we actually saw like she is her own individual. She's not just Alina's friend in this book.
Skylar didn't remember.
Skylar, what do you mean you don't get super invested in the side characters without any development? What do you mean you're not invested in the side relationship that no one cares about? I'm gonna make a video where it's just every side relationship in books that I care more about than the main relationships.
I need that. Please do.
I love that.
All the characters in Throne of Glass.
Stop. That's true.
I didn't care.
I haven't read
Throne of Glass.
I haven't read Throne of Glass. Don't plan on it.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah, you probably just shouldn't.
Yeah.
If you read it in 2015, that was like the cutoff.
I'm not going to.
I don't think we get to see much of David in the enough of David.
No, but yeah, he shows up more.
But
I
like, it's
I
not
love
enough.
David.
Like,
I
it's
love
not
David.
enough.
I like
I love
what
him too.
Gina thinks about how like Jenya's fallen for like probably the one person who could care less about what she looks like, and how that's probably like why she fell for him. Cause like, I don't know. I just
Definitely.
thought it was cute. Like the reasoning behind that relationship I thought was really sweet. But also as far as this book is concerned, at least, like we don't know if David even cares about Jenya. Like as far as I know, he has nothing there.
David, oh my god,
Yeah.
he's so fun. As things go forward in this series, he's so fun. I just love like quirky characters that have, you know, weird personalities, and that's David. Why does he have a normal name? Why does David have a normal name?
Wait.
Can we
He's the
unpack this
Chad.
really quick? Why does he have a normal name? Like why Jenya, Alina, Malian,
I mean, a
Darkling,
normal name.
David.
Ivan. There was Ivan.
Yeah, that's true.
But Ivan still fits like the world. Like David to me is like, yeah,
David.
David.
Yeah.
Well, remember, the Darkling is actually named Connor, so.
Oh, you're right.
Of course.
Never mind then. Not that big of a deal.
I don't really have strong feelings on Jenya or David. They're just kind of there for me. I don't know. I'm kind
That's
of
fair.
like Jenya. Kind
My
of.
main thing I said about Jenya was I will fight the king.
Oh yeah. The
Like,
king can touch his hands.
I
Yeah.
will throw fists. Yeah.
Were you not here for that when we were saying the Darkling's name is Connor? Because that's
Stop.
it's a choice. Jenya has my heart because like she goes through so much in this book and before the book and through the series, and like I love her.
I think the reason I was so reminded of Throne of Glass is because of what's her name? Starts with an N.
Nehemia.
Yes, it reminded me a lot of her and Selena's relationship in the first book.
Yeah.
I kind of saw them as like if you haven't read it, you don't know what I'm talking about. But like basically, like Selena enters this palace and like she has like this like she's like a princess from another kingdom that she like very closely like confides with. So they had like a very similar relationship in that sort of standpoint.
I didn't even pick up on that, but you're right. It's very true. It's very 2012 YA fantasy. But I
It
actually
fits all the tropes, hits the boxes.
Yeah, it does.
yeah, and very much I appreciate at the end she at least like stood on her own as a character.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't just like this side character for Alina's growth.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see her development in the future books.
Yeah,
Me as well.
with every single point.
Will we see development? Who knows? It's a mystery.
Wow, I have no idea if we're gonna see development or not. I'm really I'm on the edge of my seat here. Any other characters I want to talk about?
I do want to say something about the apparat real fast. Because the very first time I read the book, I straight up was like, I'm skipping anything he said. I was like, I tuned it out. I just didn't care about him, period. Because I felt like Alina didn't care about him. But like on a reread, he's much more interesting, personally. But he freaks me out. He gives me major anxiety, panic sweats every time his name shows up on the page.
He just reminded me of like that really creepy guy who you have to be polite to because he's in like a power position, but you're just like always scared to be around him. And I was highly uncomfortable reading anything.
He's your racist grandpa.
Yeah, I was like, ew, I don't want him around.
Mm-hmm.
He's the racist uncle that you have to be nice to because he's family, but like,
No.
no.
It was a no for me.
It's a no for me. But like that was one of the highlights of my reread was seeing the apparat and what foundation he starts setting.
Interesting.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, does
I'm
anyone
trying to like express my thoughts, but like not give any spoilers. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
It is.
Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about? Any characters? Any questions? Any predictions?
Ooh,
for book
I
two?
like what
Skylar.
Skylar is saying.
Oh.
Skylar saying about Zoya is
I hate-
a really good point.
in the trilogy, I hate her.
I do too, and I think that's actually directly related to the 2012 misogyny that was built in the book. Is that we're, as readers, told we have to hate Zoya because she's prettier than everyone else and because she's powerful and because, but like that's such like an internalized misogyny moment, and it's one of those things where like, yes, so I'm going to tell you, Zoya gets a lot of character development. I do like Zoya in the future, but like in this book, I don't. Like, it's hard because the first time I read it, I hated her. But now that I've read everything, I love her. But it's such a weird thing where I can see where the 2012, like, misogyny for other women being a main conflict point in books is playing out in that relationship.
I definitely saw that too. Because I, more than anything, like, I wasn't even annoyed with her character. I was just annoyed that her character was there for that purpose. I was like, why are we not working together, ladies? Let's just work together. Let's be friends.
It was like
it definitely gets more interesting, and
she does. Yeah. Oh my god!
It's one of those things. You really see her in this one.
Hardly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's that thing of like Zoya was. I can see exactly that Zoya was put in there to be Alina's main foil character as she's going through the little palace, all the way down to me just realizing right now that Alina's name starts with an A. And Zoya's name starts with a Z, and like the complete opposite. But like they live in the same world, they're both summoners, you know, and so they have like things in common, but they see each other as a threat because they both want to be the most powerful, and I think that's so annoying. Like, can girls just be friends? Why do girls always have to hate each other?
I also think that the book being in first person kind of plays a role in how we feel about Zoya in the trilogy. Because in the other books, it's now third person. And when we see Zoya, she's completely different because we're seeing it through like a narrator instead of Alina's thoughts. So I think
the thing is too,
we'll talk about that in those live shows.
If the book was
up again.
If Shadow and Bone was told through Zoya's point of view, like her getting back to the little palace and then meeting this sun summoner, we would hate Alina. You know what I mean? Like just that. The dynamic of being in first person. So yeah, I love Zoya. Like,
I mean, picture like you're like top. You're like the second in command almost, and then suddenly you get back, and there's this other person who like suddenly is getting all the attention, and she has no idea what she's doing. She obviously has no training. She just naturally has this talent, and you've worked hard your whole life to have like. To be that second in command, like that definitely would cause some conflict.
Well, if you go into like the Darkling's manipulation tactics where like he's manipulating Alina, and when everyone in the little palace just wants the Darkling's attention, like that is a common theme in discussion. And so if Zoya gets back and she sees everyone like a new person getting the Darkling's attention when she's been vying for it for so long, like that's definitely frustrating.
I felt so bad too when like Jenya and Alina just kicked her out of her room. I was like,
I felt so bad. I was like,
why? Like that's just like I get Zoya used whatever her powers, her magic, her science on her when she wasn't supposed to in training. That was bad. Bad ideas. But like them kicking her out of her room, I was like, is this necessary? Like, why are we being so petty with each other? Like, we don't need to be.
I'm sick of girl hate. I'm done with it. No more. Glad it's not 2012.
Period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the whole dynamic of the little palace is really interesting, and the whole thing where they want to be closest to the Darkling. And they're like, we're on the right-hand side of the Darkling. And it's like, okay, but they're just as close. Yeah. And he never even really shows up for any of the meals, but just to have that spot is really interesting. Yeah. And yeah, the whole
even
thing
down to like
separate separate the houses, the different orders. Yeah.
Well, and even with like Alina choosing to take summoner colors and choosing to be a middle grade, I guess, Grisha was like a real, everyone was like shocked and like a little bit mad when Jenny is like, no one can wear the Darkling's colors, and he straight up just offered it to you and you're not going to take it. Like, it has such a weird high school clique vibe that I always thought was really, really weird and funny. But relatable, because we've all been there. The Little Palace. What a wild place.
Yeah.
It serves itself well for a high school AU. Welcome to Little Palace High School. The material are nerds. The corporalky, they're preps. The summoners are jocks. And the Darkling is the student body president.
Yeah.
I'm going to write this.
Do it.
Little Palace High.
Do it.
Coming to an AO3 near you.
Well, I think that about wraps everything up, right?
Yeah.
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, we we did. I'm sure I'll have the thought later tonight. I'll be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I say that? But anyways, I'll save it for the next live show, which will be on Claire's channel on January 31st. And everyone's channel is linked down below, so if you aren't subscribed already, go do that. What are you doing? And yeah, we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks to talk about Siege and Storm on Claire's channel.
Yeah. Wait, I like the question you put on the Google Doc. We have to do it. Do Mara and Claire have any predictions for Siege and Storm? Anything at all? I won't say anything. I just want to hear it, so that way we can come back to this.
I have no idea. My brain is empty.
No thoughts and empty there.
Do not know where it's going, but I'm excited for apparently there's like another person introduced who apparently I will like, and I know nothing about them, and I know no idea when they come in or like what their purpose to the story is. But I'm just
I'll tell you that this character is universally liked. I have not come across a single person that does not like this character. So
the
say that.
conversation with Mal and Alina, because Mal's gonna be like, oh, who's this other guy? Now that the dark wait, was there? I thought there was no. Never mind. Darkling's gonna show up and he's gonna be like, Alina, he's not dead. He's gonna show up and be like, Alina, come serve with me. You're worth more than all this. And she's like, I don't know, you know. And I'm gonna get frustrated, but it's gonna have an okay ending, I'm sure.
I hope she does if that happens. I want them to be ruling. I don't know. I just want that.
I mean,
Go away, Raylo simp. Get out of here.
I think he genuinely thinks that like he'd be doing her a favor though. Like he genuinely thinks that he is like letting her rule with him. Unless, okay, I'm probably being manipulated too. I'm naive. But like we'll see.
Yeah.
That's the theme of this series. Every reader gets manipulated by the Darkling.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Me too.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Again, all their channels are in the description. Our Instagram and our Twitter and our Discord are all in the description. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bye.